With a game like Cyberpunk, you expect triggers. I mean, it's a game about hedonism. So I knew going in, so I made sure not to play it when I was at home by myself. I turned on my blue light setting, the eye saver mode. I made sure to toggle on the colorblind options because that also helps sometimes. There wasn't a warning in the beginning though, so I thought it might not be as bad. But I was playing and unfortunately there was just one time I didn't look away. I don't know, I was distracted. I know at that time my husband was talking to me and I was just kind of chilling and playing, and I looked at the whole thing and it threw me immediately into a seizure. It took me a long time to recover speech and autonomy. I couldn't walk for the rest of the night.
We do see problematic aspects of both television shows, movies, now games.
We do want to be able to advise people making games, making movies, what would be the types of activity that would be most likely to be able to trigger a seizure, because it's certainly not every flashing light. It has to be a certain frequency, a certain luminosity. It is much more likely to trigger a seizure if it covers your entire field of view.
Settle in, and we'll get you going.
There was a part in the game with braindance sequences, which it happens a couple times throughout the story, so it wasn't just like a one-time instance. And the first time I did it, I was really kind of shocked because it was very, very similar to EEGs.
There is a test that people can have, an EEG test, an electroencephalogram, and most people with epilepsy at some point in time will get that test. And actually, believe it or not, part of the test that we do is to flash lights in people's faces just to see whether they will trigger seizures or trigger abnormal electrical activity.
It basically is an arm that comes out and then it's a bar. It's designed to flash the red and white in certain patterns. And then as they're testing, neurologists test to see if they can capture a seizure on camera for diagnostic purposes. And the braindance sequence in the game is exactly the same, except for just one, you have the two.
The frequencies that are most likely to produce a seizure are anywhere between 2 flashes per second up until about 50 flashes per second, with the middle part somewhere between 10 and 20 flashes a second being the most problematic for the most people.
It did a very similar pattern to EEGs. I spoke with a representative there, and I think they were focused on the aesthetic and not necessarily some of the medical issues that were tied to it. It's not a malicious place at all. I think there's so many aspects of development that it's kind of easy to get overlooked, especially if it's not your reality. Like, I will admit, before I was an epileptic, it was never a part of my reality, so I never paid attention to anything that was harmful. I was like, ooh, Flash, cool! They reached out and they sent me a couple animations to test out, and they checked with me each time, like, are you good to look at this animation? The person that I worked with was on the US side, and they were very conscientious of my limitations and were very fast. And they're working with the director of Epilepsy Foundation of America currently to keep making sure that the other areas not just tied to the braindance sequences are also being addressed. With the braindance sequence, we changed it from the flickering to like the transient animation instead.
I would never tell somebody how to design a game. I can tell them how not to design a game. It's not the foundation's goal to interfere with the design process or the experience of the game user, but it is our goal to ensure that either the game is safe for all users or users with photosensitive epilepsy know that this could be problematic for them.
What's on the menu?
There's a lot of issues with CD Projekt Red: delisting, mismanagement, really harsh working conditions surrounding the launch of this title. I think the board of directors were insisting on a certain release window, and there were a lot of corners cut. With all of this going on, I'm really impressed with how they handled it. CD Projekt Red didn't have to respond. They could have just put the intro warning and then let that be it. And legally, they would have been fine. And I hated being a party to this because it was a round the clock thing. And I have always been very against crunch, and I have been very public against crunch. I hated seeing it, but I admire that they really went out of their way to make me feel like we're not doing this as a publicity stunt. We really want to help. A lot of studios, I feel like, aren't aware that there's a lot of minute changes. It's not this all or nothing. It's not this either leave it as is or take it all out mentality. It's as simple as muting a color a little bit or changing the animation. The step for the industry is to, one, just be aware of that. Two, not to rely on the warning label. And three, I feel like I would love to see a direct correlation with the Epilepsy Foundation of America or a similar organization where there is a representative there as a part of the certification process, kind of working in the role like a QA analysis.
There's no regulatory body that I think governs the safety of the design of these games. And so our conversations with them will be ongoing.
At the end of the day, I just want people to enjoy the games they're excited about. And it sucks that we can a lot of times, and it sucks that people that aren't affected, a lot of their first responses is, well, just don't play the game. It's like, well, okay, but then that means I can't play any game or watch any movie because everything poses a risk. You don't know what's going to trigger you. If those catches are made at the beginning of development, you're not having to do those retrospective patch fixes or scrambling to see if a new animation fits the narrative. You can build your experience around those changes early on, so it's very organic and doesn't mess with the play experience and doesn't tamper with the artistic vision at all.